What is up, my beautiful, lovely, fine people on this December holiday month? I hope everybody is having a great December. Great holidays, whether you celebrate that, whether you don't celebrate that, however you celebrate with a little drinky, smoke, whateve you do, I hope your holidays are going well. But Kenny Pickett and the Las Vegas Raiders. Kenny Pickett will get his first start for the Las Vegas Raiders in a stadium that he knows, a little bit too well, maybe. A team that he knows maybe a little bit too well. He wasn't there long, but he was there long enough, right? Long enough to get some relationships in the building, to have some connections, to have some bonds with the other players, and to have a little bit of information, inside scoop, that he can use to help the Las Vegas Raiders. Shout out, shout out. So Kenny Pickett will get the start. Will it look any different? Man, we don't know, right? They have a week of tape on him. They know who the starter is. It's not like you're coming in right off the bench, when they're prepared for Geno and then something happens and you get a quarterback, that's been waiting and feisty and ready to play, comes into the game. It's a whole different scenario. You have a good Eagles team, whether they're ranked, 27th in the NFL, 26th in the run, 15th in pass, I do believe. It's still the numbers don't really account for what that team is, what they have, and what they can do. They were in the Super Bowl last year. So the sunset behind me. Whoo. But yeah, man. So will Kenny Pickett look different? I believe yes. I believe this offense is going to look better. I believe it's going to be a little faster pace, a little bit more rhythm, right? A quarterback that can throw on the run, that could not the most accurate guy, but he can throw guys open. He's willing to take chances. He said he's going to go out there, let it rip. Raiders, right off the rip. He's going to come out, let it fly. So I just want to see some football that looks, that looks decent, that looks like an NFL team in week 14, right? Not a high school team going out there just getting dominated every single play. Offensive line, defensive line, can't get a push, can't get a rush, right? So it looked a little different last week with Geno, with Kenny Pickett, with Greg Olsen calling the shots. So I was going to stand out here, but it's way too cold. I'm going back inside. This is cold. Excuse me. Whew. The sun went down and the whole damn weather changed. It went from 50 to, oh my God. Let's come back in here where it's a little bit warmer. A little bit warmer. Not out there shivering, damn. So yeah, man, Kenny Pickett. Also, we have to talk about the Joe Burrow, very interesting interview where the man said he wasn't happy, right? He wasn't cool with the way things were going. He doesn't have the love for football that he did. And if you're not having fun, he said, why play, right? Which brings up the main conversation, right? When you have possible, first or second pick, you have a quarterback that's not happy. I'll get to the comments in a minute. Will Joe Burrow one out? I mean, you have two of the best receivers in the NFL, but you get beat up constantly. You're constantly hurt, right? You have no offensive line, a cheap organization that, hasn't really done their guys well. They have a lot of pieces. They just can't put it together. Is it the coaching staff? Is it the ownership? Is he not happy with himself? What is Joe Burrow's problem? I mean, you got a lot of money. But money don't always buy you happiness, right? So the Joe Burrow thing, we'll just get to this right off the top. There's 4 teams in the NFL, I do believe, that have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft. The Rams, the Jets, the Cowboys, and somebody else. Who's the other one? Damn, I don't know. It'll come to me in. But the Cleveland Browns. So what my point is what do the Raiders have? We have Max Crosby. Is Max Crosby a possible option to get a Joe Burrow and to possibly keep your first round pick and go defense like a Arvell Reese, like a Ruben Bain Jr.? Is it possible that the Raiders could make some crazy move and look totally different next year? But hear me out. Hear me out. This is my look and this is my take. You've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. We'll just get to it. If the Raiders could go out and somehow bring in a Robert Salah, right? A defensive minded coach. So you have Joe Burrow that has a Max Crosby still. You don't have to get rid of Max, right? Possibly get rid of our first round this year. Maybe throw a Tyree Wilson in the package. Uh, right? Some of these guys that haven't worked out for us. You have a Decamarion Richardson over there, a third round pick who can't seem to get on the grass. The Raiders have some young pieces they could throw in a package and not have to waste any first round picks. But do they have enough? If the Rams want to move up and throw both of their first round picks and go get Joe Burrow, you know, if the Cleveland Browns with two first round picks, I believe they have fourth and 27. Is that enough to throw at the Cincinnati Bengals and say, look, in their division, right? Isn't that they're in their division? Is that enough for the Cleveland Browns to throw at the Bengals and say, we got two first rounds, man. We're sitting on 4 and 27, and we want Joe Burrow. He's not happy there. You know, they had a great draft class. Maybe they could move Shador, right? Get some of that capital back. Shout out to Unleashed. I don't have any glasses, so I don't know what the hell any of y'all are saying. But I will get to it. I will get to it. Just let me ramble on for a minute and get on my soapbox. 9 months. Damn. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Much, much love. I will stop for that. Um, Raiders suck. Go Jags. Go Jacoby Myers. I don't know about go Jags, but as I was saying, man, as I was saying, the Rams, the Browns, right? The Jets. The Jets have three. The Jets have three picks that they could easily just throw away and say, we want Joe Burrow. Can Cincinnati refuse that offer? I mean, 3 first round picks. So I don't believe the Raiders have the leverage of these other 4 teams, is what I'm getting at, to try to go get a Joe Burrow without giving up a Max Crosby, which why would you give up a best defensive player and have a shitty defense, which, the Bengals have a problem with stopping, right? Whether the Bengals score 45, 55, 65 points in a game, it doesn't seem to matter for the Cincinnati Bengals because the other team scores more than they do. And their quarterback gets hurt constantly, getting beat up because of the offensive line. So just something to think about, something to look out for. If Joe Burrow is not happy, if he really wants out of Cincinnati, it'll be a free agent frenzy. There will be, people beating down the doors to try to get Joe Burrow. There'll be teams that are willing to give probably their next, their left arm and their right arm, their next 3 picks to get a guy like Joe Burrow. But if you could bring in a guy like Robert Salah and possibly, which would be a long shot, but so is getting Joe Burrow. But if you could bring in a guy like Robert Salah and you could coax them, say, yeah, we got Joe Burrow. We just need an offensive coordinator. Could you go get a guy like Mike LaFleur from the Rams? And I know it's a lateral move, but maybe you add more to it so it's not a lateral move. I don't know. I don't know how long his contract is or when it's up. But a guy that's on the list, right? Another guy that would be on the list is what the damn? Of course, I just draw a blank. Peter Brown from the Patriots, right? He's the passing game coordinator. He's the tight end coach from the Patriots. He's also a product of the Sean McVay tree. Very smart, offensive minded, right? That wouldn't be a lateral move. He's just a passing game coordinator. So you could go snag somebody from the Patriots, a team that, has good coaching there, good players. And then, you still got that Sean McVay back tree. So if you could go get a guy like that to come over, be the Raiders offensive coordinator. And I don't want to hear that Patriot way bullshit because he's only been there 1 year. He's not a Patriot. There's no Patriot way, right? But if you can go get an offensive coordinator like that, a Robert Salah, and a Joe Burrow for 2026, I don't care what picks you have to give up. I mean, honestly, right? I'd give up this first round and next year's first round if you had to. Um, because at 29, I mean, he's got at least another 5, 6 years, and there's no guarantee that the quarterback you draft is going to be that guy, right? So, shout out to everybody in the building. Let me get to some of these comments. I don't even know who's here. Lawrence, appreciate you. Greg Brewer, appreciate you. GeoMex in the building. What up, big dog? Tyler, what's good, my guy? What else we got? Damn, going outside made my nose run. Some bullshit. Raiders. Yeah, check out my Patreon. It's not all together yet, but I'm trying to get it to where, I can show the live games since I do them every single week. Also, we will have Lakers over there. We'll have some probably Dodger games when the season starts. Probably do some Hog games. I'm going to be doing a lot of film breakdown over there because I won't get flagged for it. So if you're, missing the film breakdowns that we haven't done in a minute, they will be on the Patreon. Appreciate you pinning it. Appreciate you pinning it. Rebel, if we were to win, that would make you feel better or worse. Come on, man. You should already know that answer. I'm gonna feel like shit. But a win's a win, right? You can't be mad at it. I'll put it this way. If Kenny Pickett goes out and throws for 4 touchdowns and 300 yards, right? How could you be mad? How could you be mad? But if he does it the following week, and the following week, yes, we end up with 5 wins. Yes, we drop way back in the draft. But if we beat those teams in front of us, that shows that maybe we have a quarterback and maybe we have an offense for the future and maybe we don't need a franchise quarterback right away. And, we can use that 5th, 4th pick, whatever we end up. Because I think a lot of these teams still are going to win. I think the Tennessee Titans have a chance of winning. The Saints have a chance of winning at least 2 games, the way Tyler Shuck has been playing. The Giants, you never know. With Jackson Dart, they could win 2 of those games, 3, they could win their next 4. You never know. So, with that being said, right, of course, I want the number 1 pick because the number 1 pick, you can trade back. You could trade back again. Damn, we could trade the 4th, trade again to 8th. I'd be happy with that. With 3 first-round picks, 2 second rounds, and a couple thirds, lying in the wings, right? Because we're not going to be good overnight. We're not going to be good instantly next year. Unless you get a Joe Burrow and he stays healthy and you get an offensive line and a number 1 receiver. That's a lot to ask. So, that's a lot to ask. Pigs, what's good? Happy to watch something besides Gino, LO. Right? So to answer your question, Lawrence, I would be pissed. I'd be pissed if the Raiders win this game. The only thing, good that would come out of it is Kenny Pickett again, but I'm not really a Kenny Pickett fan. Of course, I'd become a fan if he just goes out there and shows like, damn, I could really run this team and be that guy. It would change a lot. It would make a lot of things different for this draft, for the young guys, that we have, maybe seeing more grass time. But all that is, it doesn't matter if he wins or loses. Gino's coming back next week, whether, he's healthy or not. So I don't want to win. Really. I'll say it. I'm not afraid to say it. There's no reason. I don't want Pete Carroll to look good because they win. I don't want Gino, if he's back out there, to look good because of the win. I don't want them to look like they're putting this team together at the end of the season. They've already, trying to make it look like, oh, Caleb Rogers' development was all us. Come on. Everybody on that roster has got absolutely horrible on the offensive line, the defensive line. I don't see anybody developing except for Darian Porter. But is he really developing? Or Was he that good to come out? We will never know because they didn't play him early. When they did, he looked just as good as he does now. So I don't want Pete Carroll back. And wins just makes it, closer and closer to the chance that he might be back. So I'm a lose out for the rest of the season type guy. There's no reason to ruin the spot we're in. I'm taking a dab on the way to look at Christmas lights. Nice. Can't afford Burrow. Plus, he doesn't have time to rebuild. We have projected now $146 million next year if we get rid of Geno. 146 million. I think that's plenty enough to pay Joe Burrow $40 million a season. Still pay Max Crosby. That would only be $7 more million. Seven more. $7 more million than we're paying Geno right now. How do we not have the money? We have plenty of money. Everybody in our contract is 1 year deals, 1 year deals. They can go out and do the same thing next year. They can go out and get two top notch free agents, Joe Burrow trade. Like, come on, the Raiders have plenty of money. They can afford Joe Burrow if they really wanted to, but they would have to give up a lot, I'm sure. And I just don't think we have enough that would even make the Bengals pick up the phone, um, compared to these other teams. So it's a long shot. It's a pipe dream like a lot of things. But there is also the fact that if Joe Burrow does request a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals, what if he says, I want to go to the Raiders and play with Max Crosby? You know, we just seen Diego Pavea. I don't know if I butchered your name. Um, we just seen the young man from Vanderbilt, right? Who's got that dog in him, right? He's got that Jackson Dart style. He's got that Baker Mayfield rugged, tough quarterback style. I really like that kid. But he said he wants to be a Raider. So what if Joe Burrow requests a trade to the Las Vegas Raiders? Then what? Then they got to come up with capital. And it's not like they don't have it. We got what, three or four fourth round picks. We have a third, a second, maybe two thirds and a second. They could make it work if they really wanted to. Really wanted to. I mean, especially if we lose out. If we lose out and we're in first, I think a first for Burrow would be plenty. I mean, they probably want a second, or a third or something, or a player involved. But I mean, come on. If he doesn't want to be there and he requests a trade, that lowers his value, right? If the guy says he doesn't want to be here, just like we had to do with Jacoby Myers, right? Jacoby Myers, a fourth and a sixth. This man's out there playing like a top 15 receiver in the NFL right now. So when players want out, it lowers their value, and I think if the Raiders really wanted to pull the trigger, they probably could. Side note: Jalen Hurts has been turnover machine for the past two games. Yeah, but the Raiders don't really force turnovers, right? We don't blitz. And when you don't blitz, you don't get pressure on the quarterback. Like, it's 5-on-4, and whether they put another tight end, right? If they go 22 personnel and throw two tight ends out there on you, then you got 7-on-4. And the Raiders still refuse to send a linebacker, to send a safety, to send a corner off the edge. They refuse to blitz. I think they did one time in the beginning, like the first three snaps last week. And it was almost a turnover by Jeremy Chin. So, you know, they don't take chances on defense. It's a bend don't break defense, and you're not gonna Jalen Hurts is not gonna just turn the ball over by himself. You're gonna have to force him to make mistakes. You're gonna have to, make him throw on the run, make him throw across the field, um, get coverage sacks, right? Coverage interceptions, and I just don't see the Raiders having anybody to do that. Not because we don't have the players on the team, because Pete Carroll refuses to put the right players on the field. And, I'm just a fan for 50 years. I don't know shit. Um, Pete Carroll probably forgot more than I'll never know about football. But as a fan, as somebody that's watched this game his whole life, that's coached it a little bit, that played it, it's I just I don't know. I don't know what Pete Carroll is thinking. 47% cover three, 40% of the time cover three. Um, It's just crazy, yo. Expected 48 million next year. I know, but if you bring a guy in that's not happy, right? You negotiate a contract, you throw him a whole bunch of guaranteed money right off the rip, and you're like, here, we'll give you this, this, and this. They could make it work. But 48's a lot of money, bro. A lot of money. Let me ask you this in the chat. Would you rather pay, say 48, because that's what it is. We'll just say that $48 million for Joe Burrow for the next, 3, 4 years, or would you rather take a swing at a rookie quarterback on a cheap deal, seven or what do they make, 6, 7, $8 million? Let me know. Let me know. Money can't always buy you happiness, but it can buy you a happy ending. Money can buy you. If you got money, you can buy a whole bunch of those. Shit, you just get happy ending after happy ending. Shout out to my guy Lawrence. You look like someone who would say I've been sober for 6 years. That's what I look like. Well, damn, that's fucked up. It's been 8 years, 10 years. I don't know. Just done with finals. Nice, finally, right? Just got a coffee to stay up. Too early for bed. Why would you get coffee at nighttime? It's bedtime, bro. It's bedtime. Crazy. When I snap my fingers, I will forget that you're gay. Nah, bro, I'll never forget you're gay. Stop with that, D's. Stop. Um, Raiders need a whole new everything, everything, like everything, everything. Damn. Do I think the Raiders are good? Um, that's like a rhetorical question, bro. Like, how would you know if your team is good when your coach refuses to change his ways, refuses to play the young guys that are faster, maybe more talented, maybe have way more upside than the guys that you have in the league, 10 years that have on the way out, right? Um, I don't know. I don't know. I know they have a lot of good pieces, right? They have a great tight end. They have what's going to be probably a great running back if they could get him some help. They have a bunch of pieces on the offensive line. Caleb Rogers has looked amazing. JPJ, if he could stay healthy, amazing. You still have Colton Miller on the other side. DJ Glaze, with Caleb Rogers next to him, looks great. You have Charles Grant, we haven't even seen yet. Maybe Charles Grant's better than DJ Glaze. Maybe he's better than JPJ. Maybe he's better than Caleb Rogers. We don't know. So, do I think the Raiders are good? No. Do I believe that they're better than this record? Yes. Yes. Way better. Mac Jones and Jefferson to the Raiders. I mean, that sounds like a Raider move, bro. Brown chicken. That sounds like a Raider move all day. Mac Jones and Justin Jefferson to the Raiders. I could see that, bro. I could see that. I could really see that. Shout out. Double tap the screen, please. Yes, what she said. Burrow ain't going anywhere without Chase. That's crazy. Um, Joe Burrow, since the dude has too many injuries to his name, rather have Mendoza or more. I would say yes to Burrow if he is a quarterback. Oh wait, if he is a quarterback to coach up Mendoza, I mean, you're not getting Mendoza and Joe Burrow unless you trade Max Crosby, right? Or they're not trading him unless they can get their quarterback this year. The Cincinnati Bengals would be absolutely stupid to trade a franchise quarterback who I believe is top three in the NFL, um, easily, right? Top three in the NFL, maybe top five depending on your taste, but he's no lower than top five when healthy, which is a big question also. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. You're not getting Mendoza and Joe Burrow at the same time. You might get uh, a Drew Allar, right? You might get a Carson Beck. You might get David Pavea, right? You might get one of these cats. to be underneath him. Pause. Hire Robert Salah and bring in Rodgers. Come on, man. We're not no Aaron Rodgers, dude. That's that's done. Um, I was going off and read about the Robert Salah. How do y'all don't like your team, but the logo like the team is NFL classic. You don't have to like the team, bro. I appreciate you, saying the logo's classic. Shout out to Tony Gilbert in the building. What makes people think Burrow wants to go anywhere, if anything, retire? I'm I don't know. That's why we have this conversation. That's why we get on here. We voice our opinion. You voice your opinion back. We talk about it. We work it out. Right? We don't know. It's just speculation. I don't have any insiders on the Joe Burrow side. Right? I don't have any people saying like he really wants out. This is the end for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. I don't have any of that. I'm just suggesting, right? Hypothetically, what if the Raiders had Robert Salah as a head coach, Joe Burrow as a quarterback, and Max Crosby on defense to start the 2026 season? I think it would be great. I'm gonna walk through the woods with my granddaddy and smoke a blunt. Awesome. Can't beat that, bro. If you wanted to go after Joe Burrow, then go and hire Joe Brady and coach. He coached him in college. I don't want to go after Joe Burrow. I'm just saying. I mean, if it was a possibility, who wouldn't want Joe Burrow on their team? I have the same question a lot of other people do, right? The health issues. I mean, if you really look at it, at LSU, Joe Burrow was crazy, right? What, 40 something touchdowns to, a couple interceptions, whatever it wasn't a lot. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. But Joe Burrow was a dog at LSU, right? Then he goes, in his second year, he defeats Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game, right? Mahomes goes on to be the GOAT because he has Andy Reid and a way better team around him. Joe Burrow goes, to fall off on, behind the wayside. But he beats my Raiders, right? They beat my Raiders with I do believe, a Jermaine Pratt, who we had on our team and let go to the Colts. Pete Carroll. Anyways, Jermaine Pratt intercepts the ball from Derek Carr. I do believe that was the year that they went on to the Super Bowl. They beat Patrick Mahomes, and then they lose in the Super Bowl. And then, they haven't really done anything since. I don't even think they've made it back to the playoffs but once. The guy can't stay healthy. They have no offensive line. They have no defense. So I don't know, bro. I don't know. There'd be a lot of questions. I would have, every doctor on the planet checking out this dude. But, he seems like, he's healthy. He's muscular for a quarterback, right? He don't have a big old gut like Patrick Mahomes. He looks like, he's in pretty good shape. He just takes a lot of abuse. But he's also that dog, right? He's not afraid to run guys over. He's not afraid to try to pick up first downs. And when you have that, like a Jackson Dart, you're gonna get hurt. There's just no way around it. Your assess disorder has plans to make clean and sloppy house and cures OCD. What? I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Who they? I don't know. Who are they? Who they might be without a quarterback. Who they might be quarterbackless. I don't know. No Joe Burrow dude wants to come to Vegas and cash in on a paycheck. Who doesn't want to come to Vegas? I mean, it's a pretty much how much you want, right? Mark Davis just gonna write checks. Al Davis did the same thing when quarterbacks were towards the end of their career or washed up, like not washed up, but getting up there, right? That they're in years. Jeff George, Jeff Hostetler, Carson Palmer. Golly, I mean, even the ones that won for us, and Gannon, and Jim Plunkett. So we always got quarterbacks that were, towards the in their late years, and most of them played well. So I mean, Joe Burrow would be no different than, yeah, you're gonna want a paycheck. It's gonna be a huge, huge amount. Like you said, he 48 million next year. That's crazy, bro. I heard your mom wasn't a tight end. Rather pay 48 million rebuilding offensive line. I mean that makes all the sense in the world, right? It makes all the sense in the world. If you can draft your quarterback this year in the first or second pick, right? If that's your guy and you go get your guy and you spend the rest of the money, Raider Menace was good. Um, you know, shit, I'm down with that. I have no problem putting $48 million in the offensive line or the defensive line for that matter. What's up? Have a Merry Christmas to you and your family, buddy. Appreciate you, Heather Star, in the building. Just want to stop and show some love and say F the Raiders. Man, you ain't gotta come in here and say fuck the Raiders. That's not very nice. It's a family show. It's a family show. It's almost 4 p.m. I'll be up all night. If I go to damn. Yeah, you can't go to bed that early. Raiders Rebel, much respect to you, always my brother. Marcus Banks, what's good, my guy? It's been a minute. Glad to see you're healthy and okay. Hope you're healthy and okay. Hope everything is good. My work, what? My old work buddy Phil likes the Raiders. I think. You think? Okay. um. All right. So, what else we talking about? The Joe Burrow thing. It is what it is. I don't think the Raiders have any chance to really land a Joe Burrow. I think there's just way too many teams that have way more capital, um, you know, way better players that they can throw in the deal. And I just don't think it's a possibility. Would I love to have Joe Burrow? Yes, I would be happy with Joe Burrow if it meant not getting a quarterback this year, and getting one next year for him to mentor. I'd be stoked for that. I don't know how anybody couldn't. Um, I love the Raiders sign behind you. How are you? Appreciate you, Tyler. I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate you. Raiders sign. On the other side, the franchise quarterback talk. The little birdie, right? Little birdie in my ear says the Raiders' number one quarterback in this draft might not be Fernando Mendoza. I know it's hard to believe, and I'm not saying he's right, but I haven't known him to be too wrong, right? A couple things were close; they just didn't go exactly like I was told. That's why I don't tell everything. But from what I hear, the Raiders have other quarterbacks they are looking at. So if they do have the first pick or the second pick, just remember, breathe, breathe, breathe. If you hear these words, the Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock. And then you hear these words, the Las Vegas Raiders have traded the pick. Just calm down, breathe. They have a plan. I don't know. But I'm just telling. Let me know if you see Slenderman after you smoke a blunt. Who the hell is Slenderman? What are you talking about, bro? As a Cowboys fan, I need y'all to beat the Eagles. I bet you do. I bet you do. Um, I bet you do. But as a Raiders fan, I don't really care what you need for the Cowboys. And I won't say no disrespect because that would be just stupid. But man, I I don't know. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what Raiders team shows up, right? But Pete Carroll is dead set on winning now. So it's not like the Raiders are going to go in there and call stupid plays to make them look dumb. They're going to go in there and play their asses off. They have a quarterback that in his press conference says he doesn't have anything to play for. Right? He's not looking at it that way. He thinks he has enough tape out there, which, I mean, the dude has like 4,000 yards and 16 touchdowns to 14 interception in his career for Kenny Pickett. Nothing to really, jump up and down about. If you look at the guy behind him in Aiden O'Connell with, you know, 21, 22 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, I do believe, it's kind of a way better number. So, um, Kenny Pickett's going to go out there. He's going to play his ass off. He says he has nothing to play for, but I believe he does have something to play for, right? You're playing for, you know, a chance to come back for the Raiders. You're playing for a chance, you know, this is a showcase to showcase your talent on Sunday in the snow, possibly in bad weather, you know, against a great Philadelphia defense. And if he can go out there and have a hell of a game, win or lose, a lot of teams are going to be looking at Kenny Pickett and, you know, possibly more than the fifth round pick that the Raiders gave up for him, which would be good for us. So, can we beat the Eagles? Man, I don't know. A lot's going to have to go right. And for the Las Vegas Raiders, nothing has went right this year. So, how much should I put on the Eagles this week? Check out my Patreon. I'll tell you. That's up to you, bro. That's up to you. But if you're trying to take the 11 and a half, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. That's all I'm saying. I wouldn't do it. We bring Burrow to Dallas. I would not put it past Jerry Jones to make that trade. I again, somebody said, you know, we would probably get Mac Jones you and Justin Jefferson. You know, I could see that happening, and I could see Jerry Jones being the one to pull the trigger. Um, Definitely, definitely. You could probably swap quarterbacks, right? You know, maybe throw Dak Prescott in the mix with, you know, two of those first rounds, which would be a crazy trade. Two first rounds and Dak Prescott for Joe Burrow. But if anybody would do it, it'd be Jerry Jones in Dallas. Um, Eagles are trash. Oh, they're 8-5, bro. They're 8-5. They won a Super Bowl last year. They just look. I've been saying this on this channel for 2 years, trying to voice my opinion about the quarterback situation on every team. Look at Joe Burrow. Look at these quarterbacks. It doesn't matter how good your quarterback is if your offensive line can't protect a little bit, right? If your defense can't get stops, at least a couple a game. It don't have to be, you know, 5 a game, but, you know, 3, right? Give you the ball back and not just getting the ball back after the other team scores, right? It's way harder to come back after that. So if you have a defense, if you have an offense, it's way easier. You got a guy like Jalen Hurts that can throw the ball 80 yards downfield. He could squat 800 pounds, right? The dude could run his ass off. But you have two offensive linemen that are hurt. And with two offensive linemen out, it makes it a lot harder and it takes a lot more time for these guys to gel, right? Because even in the off season, even through practice, you're not getting the reps with the first team, right? They're not swapping these guys in and out. You get 1 or 2 practices and a walkthrough every week to get ready for the next team. So when you lose guys, no matter how good your team is, with the Saquon Barkley, right, with the top 5 defense in the NFL, everything falls apart with just a couple missing pieces. And the Raiders have had that problem for the last, I don't know, 20 years. Breaking news: Raiders signed cheerleader as a new quarterback. um, Niners have everything Bagels want for Burrow. We can trade Purdy and a second for Burrow. What are you talking about? Dakota. Dakota Miller in the building. Appreciate you. You really think you can get Joe Burrow for Brock Purdy in a second? I mean, okay. Okay. Yeah. There's, yeah. Um, that's the stuff you change for a Patreon Rebel. Don't give that away. Man, it's just a little tidbit. Um, didn't Kenny Pickett play for the Eagles last year? Eagles know all his strengths and weaknesses. 100%. I talked about it last night. You know, Kenny Pickett was there. You know, when you're the backup quarterback, you're going against the first team defense. So the first team defense knows Kenny Pickett very, very well. But Kenny Pickett also knows Quinyon Mitchell, right? He also knows uh, Cooper DeJean, right? He also knows, well, not the safeties because they weren't there last year, but he knows this front, right? He knows he's going to have to get out, make plays with his legs. And, I think that's going to be a difference. So I think it evens out, right? He knows the defense. The defense knows him. He knows what coverage they're in. It's going to be harder for Fangio to come up with a whole new game plan just for the Raiders, right? You're going to have to change your defense completely with Kenny Pickett being out there because Kenny Pickett knows what you run out of your base. He knows what if you run more cover two or more cover one, right? He knows. He knows in your disguise looks. He went against them for a whole entire year last year. So that's going to be a big, big advantage for Kenny Pickett. And I'm sure he's, feeding that information with Pete Carroll, with Greg Olsen, right? So I think it's going to help both. I think it's going to help both. But what they don't know, see, right? Kenny Pickett has seen their defense, except for the couple changes, but they haven't seen Kenny Pickett with the Brock Bowers, with the Ashton Genty, with not Jacoby Myers, with Trey Tucker, with Jack Besh who's coming around. Cedric Jackson had his first touchdown, right? They've never seen him with any of these guys. They don't know if it's going to be, a quick up-tempo offense where you get the ball out quick and you don't give the defense time to pressure. Because I believe Kenny Pickett could do that with this, with the weapons we have. We have a lot of fast guys. Cedric Jackson, Trey Tucker, right? Dante Thornton. They just haven't been used right. And if we use them right in quick slants and drag routes, right? Get them out in space. Let them outrun these linebackers and these safeties in their corners. We have a shot. We have a shot. At Dakota Burrow to the Niners would be a great fit, but Purdy with the turf toe is a huge risk. Yeah, that turf toe, man. Ask Deion Sanders about that. That should last forever. Purdy is healthy. They make the right decision to let him heal. Yeah, but turf toe, that's healthy or not, it never goes away. It always lingers, right? It's gonna stay with you consistently. So I don't think Purdy even, doesn't matter where he was picked, but the way he's played, right? His injuries, the Super Bowls, the playoffs. I don't think he's on Joe Burrow's level, and I don't think him in a second would even scratch the surface. Buffalo Bills are way better than what? Wrestling Queen, appreciate you in the building. What is Candy Angel? That little live streaming baddie. What? Raiders. All right, man. So Joe Burrow aside, right? Coaching talk. There's a lot of coaches that have been named, but one in particular that I've mentioned on this channel until y'all probably threw up listening to it. But a name that is starting to surface once again, that started surfacing late last year, is Mike LaFleur, coming up in a lot of talks, as a Raiders fit. Some people question he doesn't call plays, but last week, Sean McVay was hurt. Not hurt, but was under the weather, had a little bit of sickness, right? So Sean McVay wasn't feeling well. He let Mike LaFleur call the plays. The Rams won 44-17. They put 44 points on the board with Mike LaFleur calling plays. He also called plays under Robert Saleh, right, with the Jets for 2 years. Not the greatest, but they didn't have the greatest weapons. They had a rookie quarterback, an awful offensive line, right, and a young rookie receiver, and a young coach. So none of it worked, none of it gelled, right? But coming back around, man, I think Robert Saleh, if you could get a guy like Mike LaFleur to come to the Raiders with those two paired up, whether it be, a young coach, he's right, he comes from that McVay system. They both also come from the Shanahan tree, right? So developing quarterback seems to be,
in the norm. Um, I would keep Carroll, bring an elite offensive coordinator. What is what is Pete Carroll gonna? What is keeping Pete Carroll gonna do? Keep him for what? One more year to draft a quarterback and have him sit behind Geno Smith? Because I don't know if you watched the press conferences, Geomex, but the last three press conferences, he's looked like he was gonna cry when they mentioned Geno Smith not being able to go. Right? Geno was first it was a finger, then it was a shoulder, now it's a lower back. And it's funny that it's a lower back injury because a back injury is one of those injuries that you can't really detect, right? It could be a muscle flare up, it could be on the inside, right? It could be a bulged disc. Um, you could say your back hurts and they can't really tell if you're lying or not, but shoulders, arms, elbows, shit like that, right? They can see, all the muscles and ligaments and shit inside of there. Um, but back it could be inflammation, right? It could be anything. So, um, bringing Pete Carroll back would just be stupid. It's not gonna help, and not that it's stupid, but it it doesn't make sense, right? You have a guy that's 74, gonna be 75. He's already shown favoritism in the building. He's already shortened the career, in my opinion, of Caleb Rogers, of Charles Grant, of Jack Besh, who gets 6 targets, catches 6 balls. Come on, you're telling me that just out of nowhere, this is a product of him being in the system and not catching any balls in practice, right? Not being getting any first team reps, that he just automatically developed and got better. Pete Carroll hasn't developed anything. Our defense is worse than it was last year. They don't blitz. His defense is horrible. They run cover three constantly. So Pete Carroll has done nothing but hurt this franchise, man. Um, my guy, without a doubt, Kyle Shanahan is the coach of the year so far, and saying he hasn't talked. Dude's entire team is hurt. He will me. I mean, more than likely win coach of the year unless Ben Johnson takes the Bears, deep deep in the playoffs, and the 49ers don't go deep in the playoffs. But in my opinion, I mean, Kyle Shanahan should already be coach of the year. You lost your quarterback. You bring in Mac Jones. You don't really miss a beat. Sometimes it looks better. Um, you lose Christian McCaffrey again. You lose, half your defense, two of your starting, um, two of your starting receivers. So it just, I mean, what that coaching staff has done, right? Because it's not just him; it's the development of players, right? So it's the guys underneath him, right? The passing game coordinator, the assistant coach, the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. Um, but the 49ers have always had, they've always had a great system. No matter who their coach is, they just always find great staff members. So, yeah, shout out to him, man. It's been a crazy season. Like, the Raiders are the most healthiest team in the NFL right now. We have 2 players that are out, Colton Miller and JPJ. They're both on IR. The rest of our team is pretty much healthy. You got a nick up here and a nick there, but they play. The 49ers, dude, they have a way better record than us, and they're actually winning games, whether it's the backup quarterback, backup offensive line, backup receivers. It doesn't matter. Raiders can't win with their starters. It's horrible. Keep Carroll, gut Geno. He has to demote his sons, but that's never gonna happen. Geo, Geo to the Mex. That'll never happen, bro. He's he already said Geno Smith will not be able to go this week because of a lower back, but he will be back next week if he's ready to go. So he's never going to fire his sons. You can't ask a father to fire his sons, right? He brought them in to have the last hoorah, um, try to get him jobs. You could see him on the sideline coaching to Nate Carroll over there constantly. Um, he's always pointing stuff out on the field, pulling his headset off so they can talk. He does more coaching to his kids than he does anybody on the field that I've seen. I haven't seen him talk to anybody, but I see him constantly talking to Nathan Carroll. So Pete Carroll is he's got to go, bro. He got to go. You could not leave that old man in a building. He's just Papa Pete is killing us. I don't want Robert Salah. We need a new young head coach, go in a new direction with no more remixes. I mean, I agree with that too. I just think he has a lot of offensive ties that come from that come out of Arnie Garza. What's good? Salute to you, man. Um, I just think he has a lot of ties, right? That come out of the Sean McVay tree, that come out of the Shanahan tree, that are two good, probably the two best trees, coaching trees to pick from in the NFL. So when you have those relationships, right, you can get a great offensive coordinator, a great offensive mind, plus the relationships he has with the Jets. Um, where else was he before that? So Robert Salah has a lot of relationships that I think would help him. But I agree too. I agree. I wouldn't mind a young head coach. Um, I like Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator for the Packers. I do believe. But you know me, man. My first choice is going to be Mike LaFleur right off the bat. Um, Joe Brady, I'm not as big as a lot of people are on Joe Brady. I don't think what they've done over there with the Buffalo Bills in their offense is consistent. Um, I just it doesn't impress me, man. It doesn't impress me. If Pickett goes down on performance poorly, how would AOC play with the awful offensive line? Um, Hopefully Arnie Garza, they have the game plan this week. Quick release, right? Up tempo, um, get the ball out. But I've talked about it before. Aiden O'Connell, right? If you check this out, little tidbit for you. You make your own decision, right? I'm not trying to convince nobody. Shador Sanders takes 3.44, 3.47 seconds to throw the ball in the NFL average. That is his time. That's how long he holds it, whether he has a clean pocket, whether he doesn't have a clean pocket. That is the average time for Shador Sanders to hold the ball. The average time for Joe Burrow and who is it? Um, Joe Burrow and and Patrick Mahomes, I do believe, are the top. The time to throw the ball, quickest times in the NFL, is um, I think 2.62 seconds. Aiden O'Connell's is 2.66 seconds, which means he is the third fastest release in the NFL when it comes to releasing the ball. So if they run a system for Kenny Pickett where it's, slants, drag routes, quick outs, and once in a while those deep goes, I think Aiden O'Connell will be fine. But if they try to run the offense that they have been, where every route, none of the receivers are looking until they're 10 yards down the field. Which, if you go back and watch the All 22, there's been a lot of routes, mainly when Chip Kelly was here. None of their routes even start until 10 yards down the field. So if the quarterback was to throw the ball quickly, it hit him in the back of the head, right? So it depends on the system, man. If they have the system, up tempo, quick release, if something happens to Kenny Pickett, I think Aiden O'Connell will be fine. And I think Aiden O'Connell will be fine anyways. The only problem is he's never snapped the ball. He's never taken a snap with Alex Kappa that I know, right? He's never taken a snap with Jordan Meredith. The only person he's taken snaps from that I know is JPJ, who is hurt, and Will Putnam. So if he does come in, it's not going to be good. You can't throw a guy that's been out the whole year because of a wrist injury and expect him to look like Joe Montana or Joe Burrow. So, I don't think it would look great. I think it could possibly look like it looked last week when Kenny Pickett had to come in um, for Geno Smith. But look, I'm an Aiden O'Connell fan. I like the kid, but I just don't see him coming in a rough situation and not taking sacks or not making mistakes behind this offensive line. But the offensive line has played well. They played well last week. Um, Caleb Rogers is going to get the start again. So, 3 weeks out there, 3 weeks being out there, if he plays like he did last week and the offensive line continues to step it up, DJ Glaze played well last week. I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be all right. But they're not prepared for that. I'm sure they're not prepared for that. Um, Look, Pete Carroll has done nothing but lie this season. And yes, I'm calling the man a liar because he literally said, the last 3 weeks, Aiden O'Connell and Kenny Pickett have been taking reps with the first team offense. Kenny Pickett said yesterday, it's nice to finally get snaps with the first team offense for the first time. That was yesterday. So Kenny Pickett comes out in his press conferences and says, finally, I get some snaps with the first team offense. But Pete Carroll has been telling us for 3 weeks that he's been taking reps every single week with the first team offense, and so has Aiden O'Connell. So these guys aren't prepared. They won't be prepared, and I'm sure they're not preparing for Kenny Pickett to have to, come out of the game. I don't think they'll take him out of the game for playing bad. You haven't taken Geno Smith out of the game one time for playing bad this season, so I don't think you can justify pulling Kenny Pickett if he struggles early or late. So the only way Aiden O'Connell comes in is if something major happens to Kenny Pickett, and I think he'll be fine. But again, not having any, none of these quarterbacks. Look at Joe Burrow coming back, right? He hasn't looked great. Yes, he had 4 touchdowns. He had 2 interceptions, 2 weeks ago. It takes time, bro. It takes time. He's not, gelling. But if they have receivers out there, right? Jack Besh, Cedric Jackson, guys that he's had, time throwing the ball to in camp, then he'll be fine. They have to adjust for it. AOC would have an average 8 sacks a game if his last resort was with this O line. I don't know where you get your information, bro. I love you, but that is totally not even close to correct at all. Aiden O'Connell in his career only has 23 sacks. Geno Smith has almost 50 this year, bro. Almost 50. Close to 50. Because he holds the ball too long. Aiden O'Connell doesn't hold the ball long. It's why he never took sacks under a bad offensive line last year, under a bad offensive line the year before. Aiden O'Connell didn't take sacks, bro. The first year, he took 7 sacks in one game. He only got sacked 5 more times the rest of that year. Because he learned to move in the pocket, step up in the pocket. You think he's a statue, but the kid really is not. So under this offensive line, he might have a lot more incompletes because he's going to throw the ball away and not take a sack. But Aiden O'Connell wouldn't have a bunch of sacks. He's had 1 game in his career. He had 7 sacks. After that, the most times he's ever been sacked in his career, I believe, is 3. The kid doesn't take sacks like people think. He was one of the least sacked quarterbacks. If you look at a 20 game stretch, right? He played in 20 games. Compare that to any quarterback in the NFL. His sacks are right there or lower. Question: would you start Kappa over Meredith at center in this game? I don't think so. I think Jordan Meredith has struggled a lot. I think Alex Kappa seems to have a little bit of connection with a little bit with Parham, but I think he played very well with Caleb Rogers. I think maybe the guys have been practicing together, on the practice squad, which it seems like that's the case, right? Neither one of them were starters for a while. So I think Kappa, for never playing center, I think he's done a pretty good job. I mean, it hasn't been great, but for the minimal experience that he has, I don't think I'd mess up a good thing, right? He's played this will be his 3rd week. I'd just leave him in there. I wouldn't put Meredith at guard unless you're putting him at left guard, unless you're putting him there for Dylan Parham. I wouldn't mess it up. And I really, really hope that the Raiders do not put Meredith in there and do not, and leave Caleb Rogers on the bench, because that's a horrible, horrible, horrible mistake, and he needs to be fired if he does that. Who is responsible for holding back Caleb Rogers this year? Pete, Brennan, Chip, or all three? That's a damn good question, Arnie Garza. But if you want me to assume, I'm gonna have to say all the above. I'm gonna have to say all the above. I don't think Tom Brady wanted him out there early in his rookie year. I don't think Spytek wanted him out there early, and I know Chip Kelly don't want guys out there as rookies, and I'm sure Pete Carroll didn't either. So I don't think, you know, I don't think it was Brendan Carroll's decision. I don't think it was, I think it was like a all, collective decision to let the man develop. There's no reason. And then on the other hand, you have Tom Brady and Spytek. Alex Kappa is their guy. They wanted Alex Kappa. They wanted to bring in, a veteran that can help the offensive line, and they didn't bring him in and pay him $5 million to sit on the bench. So I think it had to do mainly with that. And I think now that they're at a point where it doesn't matter what Kappa's making as long as he's in there. That's why he's in there at center. Because why else would you put a guy again at center when you said JPJ wasn't the guy? Then you were all hyped up on Meredith, and now all of a sudden he's not the guy. It's just been bad coaching decision after bad coaching decision. So I'm gonna blame it all on Pete, not Gino. I'm gonna blame it all on Pete, right? It's his decisions. He's the coach. You say, unless the guy, Spytek calls and says, "Bro, play this guy, or you're fired," which I don't see that being the case. It's got to be Pete Carroll. He's not standing his ground if he's getting messages from the top saying, "Play this dude or don't play this dude." But I don't think Caleb Rogers got better overnight. I think his development was, maybe a little bit, but I think he's relying on his skills from college, what he's doing right now. Who gives you the right to talk about football? Do you have a sports degree? Matter of fact, I do. You want to see it? Would you start Jackson over Tyler Lockett? Um, I'd give him more playtime. I don't know. I'd possibly, start him. What would it hurt, to have him first couple snaps, right? It wouldn't. I don't think it would hurt. Um, but Lockett's gonna help Kenny Pickett, right? He knows how to get open. He's seen all the coverage, um, and I think Kenny Pickett's gonna give him the ball a lot cleaner than Gino. Um, he's not gonna be afraid to, to throw it to him or to try to lead the receiver. So I don't know. I would start Jackson, but who knows? Tyler Lockett might be one of those divas, and it might be all up in his feelings. Good question, Lawrence. Maybe rotate as much as possible. I think Cedric Jackson is going to get a lot more playtime than Tyler Lockett because that was Kenny Pickett's receiver, right? When you're on the practice squad and you're throwing to guys, you're throwing to the backups. So guys that don't get a lot of starts, right? Jack Besh. Um, who else is out there? I almost said Tommy Malott. He's not even on the team. I don't know why I was thinking of him. Um, Jack Besh, Dante Thornton. You're throwing to those guys. Cedric Jackson. What's the I don't know who else we got. The other little white boy I can't think of. Alex Bachman, right? You're throwing to those dudes. So I'd look to see a lot more of those guys out there. And I think that's why Ian Thomas was out there so much, not just because Michael Mayer being hurt, but because that's who he's comfortable throwing the ball to. So hopefully he gets a lot more time with Brock Bowers, because you didn't see him throw to Brock much, right? I don't think he knows that you can just throw the ball Brock's way and he's going to catch most of everything. Ava here just passing by. Appreciate you, Ava. Anyone look right to talk about football? If you don't like it, you can leave the channel. Ooh, don't be rude. Um, Question: who is your X factor to win this game? Who is the X factor to lose the game? My X factor to lose the game is the defense. If you can't stop Saquon Barkley from running the ball down your throat, and just just treating you like a little brother constantly, um, right? So defense, man, defense is going to be the downfall. It has to be um, the X factor to lose the game. If they don't play their best game, if they can't stop the run, if they can't keep Jalen Hurts contained inside the little cage, right? You have to rush defense in a cage with a mobile quarterback. You can't let them roll out and get on the run because now you got guys making choices. Do I go after the quarterback? Do I stay with my receiver? It puts guys in a bind, right? Makes them make decisions, and we just don't have. I don't want to say smart enough guys, but guys that have been around long enough to make those quick decisions on the fly. So the X factor is two people. It's got to be Ashton Genty. We're gonna have to run the ball. That is their weakest link. They're 27th, 26th in defensive yards given up. So rushing yards given up. You have to attack a weakness here. And I know you're looking at that front seven going, how is that the weakness? I don't know. But they've been giving up a lot of rushing yards. So uh, Ashton Genty to the outside. Do not try to run up the middle in this front. It's not going to happen. The whole line is solid. Even their backup is solid. So run to the outside. And Kenny Pickett, man, Kenny Pickett's going to have to get the ball out of his hands fast. He's going to have to be decisive. He's going to have to, know his coverage, know where you're going with the ball before you snap it, put everybody in the right positions. And I think the Raiders are going to play a hell of a game. Randy Moss. Wow, JT Watt hospitalized with a collapsed lung. Yeah, I read that, man. I don't even. Was it on the field? Did something happen to him? Let's go. Just lose, baby. So where are you guys at, man? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. Are you on the? I'm not. I don't want to say team tank because we're not really tanking, right? We're just don't go out there and try to do anything special, right? We don't need to run no end rounds. We don't need to run no special reverses, no crazy trick plays. Just go out there and play ball, man. Just go out there and play ball. Let everything fall where it falls. And, if you mess around and trip and fall into a win, then damn. Damn. The year went from being horrible to possibly being good at the end to back to horrible again. Otis Watkins says, all in on the tank. When you say it like that, it just sounds so bad. No, but really, Pete Carroll's never going to tank, bro. He's the most competitive dude on the face of the earth. He's 74 years old. He's still out there throwing passes, shooting jump shots, playing basketball. Competing with these guys every single day, every bone in Pete Carroll's body, whether he makes good decisions at this age or bad decisions, he's competitive as hell. And as long as he's the head coach, we have a chance of winning every one of these last games. I mean, even as bad as we are, we looked pretty decent last week. And when you're in week 14 and you're a horrible team and you're still practicing and you're still together as a team, you can have that one game where everything clicks that you've been waiting for all year. And if you have that one game where everything clicks, where the offense does their job, the defense gets stops, get off the field, gets the offense back on the job, special teams covers, makes the kicks, right? When everything clicks, you can beat anybody on any given Sunday. We have plenty of weapons, right? We have plenty of defenders. We have a rookie that hasn't even played out of, I believe, 50 snaps this year, that last week made two great pass deflections against, Cortland Sutton, a damn good NFL receiver, and covered him pretty well all year. That's playing on the minimum, right? That's barely getting on the grass. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. What else did I miss? Would you like to see Pickett win to prove that Gino has to go? Um, got me fucked up. Yes. 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 Yes, I would absolutely love that. Oh shit, I gotta unplug this. Hold up. No, I still got a little bit more time. A little bit more time. Here's the thing with that. Here's the thing with that. Pete Carroll has already said Gino's coming back no matter what next week. If he's healthy and ready to go, this is still Gino's team. So I don't think it matters to anybody but maybe Tom Brady or Spytek, maybe wanting to see, if Kenny Pickett in that first round, fifth round pick is worth. But I will say this. I will say this. John Spytek, as much as he loves his picks, right? As much as he believes in building through the draft and keeping those players in the building that develop a core, that develop a standard, that develop a culture, right? As much as he loves those picks, he gave up a fifth round for Kenny Pickett. So either he likes Kenny Pickett, Tom Brady likes Kenny Pickett. We know Pete Carroll don't like Kenny Pickett. I mean, when you hear him talk about Kenny Pickett, the look on his face just turns to disgust. He can't stand the fact that Kenny Pickett has the opportunity to go out there and make him look like an idiot, make Gino look like an idiot, and make anybody that thought Geno Smith was going to be better at quarterback than Kenny Pickett or Aiden O'Connell or Cam Miller this year look like a complete dumbass. So he doesn't want Kenny Pickett out there. And I'm sure if Pete Carroll had his way and he didn't have every bone in his body was competitive, that he would do everything he can to make sure it didn't go right. But that's just not Pete. So, um, yes, I wouldn't mind seeing Kenny Pickett win, but I guarantee you this. Mark my words. If Kenny Pickett wins this game somehow, and the Raiders win this game, and Geno Smith practices next week, he'll be the starter, which that, and let alone should get Pete Carroll fired. But just the fact that he wins should get Pete Carroll fired. So, I mean, it's a damn good question, bro. Damn good question. I can lean either way. Question: if Bauer scores a touchdown, we will lose. We are 0-8 in games Bauer scores a touchdown. Golly. That's pathetic, bro. That's pathetic. That's just we are 0-8 when Brock Bauer scores a touchdown. He's the only one that scores the touchdowns on our team, besides Ashton Genty. Who else has scored a touchdown this year? Trey Tucker with what, two? Michael Mayer has one. Cedric Jackson has one. The rest have been Brock, I do believe. So, yeah, something's got to turn around there, bro. Even the game where we had three touchdowns, he had three touchdowns. That's crazy. Man, yeah, they gotta do something. Raiders are ass. That Steelers fan, you said it. You said it, bro. Like that's a horrific number. That I'm stuttering over here like Tom Brady talking about how he owns the team. Can we all agree Josh Allen is about to lay the smackdown on Drake May? No, no. I like Josh Allen. I'm a big Josh Allen fan. I think he's got that dog in him that every quarterback should have. And, maybe guys like Burrow should have a little bit more of that dog. Um, but I don't know, bro. Drake May is filthy. The kid has it all. He has a great offensive coordinator, a great passing game coordinator that might be a head coach very, very soon. I was just talking about earlier. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if their defense. Now I know he might have a better game, but he can't play defense. So I don't know if he's gonna lay the smackdown on Drake May. And if I was a betting man, I'm taking Drake May to have a better game than Josh Allen in this game. I hate Pete needs to get fired. Yes. Yes. F the Steelers Raiders. Kenny Small hands Pickett. That is a fact, my guy. And you are a Steelers fan, so you would know about those small hands Kenny Pickett has. That's why he wears those gloves. Get a little sticky on it, right? But maybe his hands got bigger in Vegas because he's thrown some damn good passes, and he looked a lot different than he did over there in the cold, which this game will be in the cold. Sucks. Aaron Rodgers looking more like Buck Rogers. Mm. Some of y'all might not know who Buck Rogers is, but y'all might have to look it up. That's funny as fuck. Um, Hope you have a good day. Sham, what's good? Yeah, I'm having a decent day. Hope you are as well. Um, Let a white boy play, laughing my ass off. Broncos fans, Steelers fans. What do you think about Klubnik or Beck? I don't know what happened to Cade Klubnik, bro. I don't know how to answer that. I've never been a Carson Beck fan. I don't know. There's just something about him that just it just rubs me the wrong way. Bless you. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I think Carson Beck would be um, a good project. You know, he's played pretty damn good in Miami. The interceptions sometimes scares me. He has the arm strength. You know, he's good. He's tall. He's good in the pocket, decent. Um, Decision making and intelligence, I think, kind of scares me on that. Cade Klubnik, you know, last year I thought he was going to be, a top five quarterback in this draft. I don't know if it was his coach, the offensive system, him himself, but the man ended up, having a rough year. So maybe these guys, can get it together for the combine and come out and, make all the throws. Um, I don't know. Maybe they're gonna have to show something in the Senior Bowls if they even get invited. I don't know, but I thought Cade Klubnik was decent. I think Carson Beck is decent. If you have to have a quarterback and you're in the third or fourth round, those are probably going to be two of the names that are right there, probably in the third round still. Um, Broncos one and done. You'll see. I mean, please, please, please. I predicted them to win the division and make the playoffs. That defense is just too nasty, but I would love for them to be one and done. You know, Bo Nix kind of reminds me of that um Diego Pavea, right? You know, 35 touchdowns, 800 rushing yards, led his team to a one loss season over there. You go pick up a Diego Pavea, might be a nice pick, but Bo Nix, man, I don't know his passer rating, his completion percentage, his completion accuracy, all of that has been whacked this year, dude. It's been up and down. So, um, when are the Raiders hiring Belichick? Don't you put that bad juju on me. Dante Moore is the guy I'm looking for, whether he comes out of this draft or next year. Sports Jazz fan. I like Dante Moore too. I think he has a lot of upside. He's got the arm talent. He's in a great system with a great coach. I mean, you got great players around him, which some of the you might get spoiled like Bo Nix, kind of did. Um, but I like Dante Moore. I don't know. I don't know if he'd be my number one next year, depending on who comes out. There's guys like C.J. Carr. There's guys like Arch Manning. Who knows what he's going to do? He's not coming out this year. I believe it'll be next year, probably the year after if I'm Arch. Um, but if he waits till next year, man, I think he has a lesser chance of being, that top guy. If he comes out this year, I think Dante Moore is, a top two quarterback, definitely in this draft. But I don't know if I'd wait till next year. Easton, what's good? Appreciate you. and I did a couple mock drafts just to mess around. Um, I don't see him coming out. It would make, it would make more sense to stay, right? To stay trying to win a championship there. Um, but it also, again, there's a lot of quarterbacks that, could take that next step and push you out of that top pick. So he's got a lot of decisions to make, a lot of decisions to make. But I believe the Raiders, I said earlier, um, it says in the thumbnail and the title, right? Raiders draft for, franchise quarterbacks unleashed. There's a couple guys they're looking at. Dante Moore is definitely one of them. The Raiders showed up to three games of his, all against top schools. They had a bunch of scouts there, from what I was told. So, someone mentioned to me, Frendoza is Kirk Cousins, and now I can't unsee it. There you go. There you go. I read was it Kirk Cousins? Yeah, I read an article I believe last night that said he is basically Jared Goff and maybe Kirk Cousins, but yeah, it was two of those quarterback comparisons that they said Mendoza was. And Jared Goff just never really impressed me, and you know, other than last night, playing pretty well. Nah, he didn't even play. Kirk Cousins has never really impressed me either. So it's funny how Raider Nation, last year it was, oh, we gotta have JD5, right? We gotta have this mobile quarterback. We gotta have this guy that can run around, make plays with his legs. And now all of a sudden the whole entire nation has flip flopped, and they want a guy that's not a statue, but he's not mobile. He's decent, right? He's crafty. He can he can read defenses. He knows when to run, when not to, and he knows how to pick up yardage, right? So, but not the fastest guy in the world. Not what you would call a dual threat, really, in my opinion. Like you said, he's basically a Kirk Cousins or a Jared Goff, a guy that if you give him 20 yards in front of him, he's going to pick up a first down. He definitely has a great mind, but is that, the way the NFL is going and everybody says how you have to have a mobile quarterback, like a Shador, like a Bo Nix, um, right? Guys that can make plays with their legs. I just don't think Fernando Mendoza is the Raiders' top choice. I don't believe that is their top choice. Now, if I had to say, Brady's top choice, a guy that stands in the pocket and is more like a Kirk Cousins, I would believe is more like a Tom Brady choice. But to me, when you compare Fernando Mendoza to Kirk Cousins and a Jared Goff, you're right. You can never unsee it. And is that worth a first overall pick in the NFL draft? To me, it's not. I hope Raiders trade down. Raiders need to win in free agency. Trade down would be, the greatest, bro. I did a mock draft, right? Um, I did a mock draft with trades. The first trade was the Cleveland Browns offered me, let me know, thumbs up or thumbs down. You guys are GMs, right? I want you to play Las Vegas Raider GM. We're going to fix this franchise right here on this live, right? You have the option. Thumbs up or thumbs down. The Cleveland Browns offered their fourth round pick, their 27th pick, and their 36th, whatever they have in the second round, and a third or a fourth. So 2 first rounds this year, a third and a fourth. Are you taking that for the number 2 spot? We weren't even in 1. That was for the number 2 spot. You drop down from 2 to 4, and you pick up a 27 and a second round pick. I mean, I didn't take the trade because I just want to see where it went. Then you had who else? Who else? I forgot who else. Oh, the Cowboys offered me one of their picks this year, a pick next year, um, a third, and a third next year, and a fifth. I think I was like, damn, but that's way too far back because I don't know where the Cowboys are going to be. So, and somebody else, the Pittsburgh Steelers, are something I think offered their first this year, a first next year, and a first the following year to move up to two. So there are going to be teams out there that are needy, that not just quarterback needy, right? Ruben Bain is one of those dudes that could be, a game changer. Could be, you know, Abdul Carter went what second last year, so he could be one of those cats. And there's a lot of teams that need a franchise defensive end or a linebacker that'd be willing to move up for them, not just a quarterback. So if you're sitting at one, if you're sitting at two, that's a hell of a place to be. Wow, I'm choking over here. I think the Raiders should trade Ashton Genty. Should be traded for Jalen right now. For Jalen Wright or Jalen right now. um, they're not trading Ashton Genty because they're not going to get the value that they traded as a sixth overall pick. It's just not going to happen. I think there's some real comparisons between the two. Can have a high ceiling, um, but reality low floor. I mean, I agree with that too, right? You could have, but I don't even know how much upside is there, right? I mean, he can make all the throws. You're not going to get stronger. You're not going to be able to throw him farther. The only upside is, is mind development, um, reading defenses and shit like that. So I don't know how much, ceiling is there. But if you have an offense, what the fuck? If you have an offense with a good offensive line, like and two great receivers, then I think you could do well with that with him. Scotty Frankly, Ghost One, Night Scott. Okay, okay. He'll be a Jet by draft day. I bet you. Um, it makes sense. It makes sense. I know Raider fans like to get gassed up, and I try to keep us in the middle. Um, but I'm a very small voice on this side, and I try to keep everything in perspective. But I think Joe Burrow's way out of the reach. I think even if we have number one or number two, um, if we're number two, somebody's jumping to number one to get Mendoza. If there's a lot of people that already believe that this is the guy that he's a can't miss. I just don't see a can't miss quarterback. Drink some water. I don't know what the hell happened. I swallowed a frog or something. Um, what's up, yo? I'm at the lights. Nice, nice. So, yo, man, those are my stories. Those are my stories. I know you've seen the cover. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments afterwards. Who would be your number one choice to go get at quarterback? Whether it be free agency, would you take one in the draft? Would you go defense? Um, would you go offensive line? Right? Would you go get that number one receiver? And coaching wise, would you go defense or would you go offense? I believe offense needs to be the way to go. A lot of people aren't good at bringing, Patrick Graham back, but I think having a defensive coach for 5 years in the same system with your, I guess, with one key player because they let all the other ones go, could be a good thing. It could be a good thing to move on from PG, but coaching is definitely time for a change. But let me know, who are your top guys? Who do you think fits the Raiders? And is it offense or defense? Maybe if there are two to grab downs helps this defense. I would draft Caleb Downs in a second, and I know people are gonna call me crazy. You don't take a safety in the first round. You at least don't take them in the top 10, right? I know all the codes and all that bullshit that everybody talks about, but when you have the best player in the draft, when you have the most athletic, when you have a game changer, you know, safety is a way um, a way bigger position than people give credit for, right? Everybody thinks you can just go get a safety in free agency and just plug them in. Um, but safeties like this, right? Safeties like this come once every couple years. There's, maybe once every 2 years, maybe two every year. I don't know. But Caleb Downs is very, very, very special. It comes from a great organization. Um, and depending on where we fall, right? If the Raiders win this game, they fall to seventh. That looks to me like a Caleb Downs pick, right? That looks to me like, you know, maybe a shit. I don't know. Maybe a Fanu pick. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where we get, but if we win some games, that's the thing though. When you have an elite safety, is completely defense to mask up other deficiencies. The hell, bro? I think I just got sick going outside or something. Yeah. When you have, shit. When you have a good complete safety that can get from hash to hash, that can play in the box, that has the speed, to cover the guys that are already in full speed when they're let go in cover three, right? You could play cover three, you could play man, cover two. It doesn't matter. I agree with you. Downs is special. Yeah, and you know, when you're a team like the Raiders and you need, everything you can get, I don't see how anybody could be mad with a scenario where you're sitting at two and you trade back to, five or six or seven and you get another first round pick and possibly another first round pick, you know, next year, or you swap picks and get another first rounder. I don't see how anybody could be mad at that. This team needs all the picks they can get for the future. They need to rebuild, and if you can trade back and end up with a Caleb Downs or a Ruben Bain or a Arvell Reese or CJ, what the hell's the linebacker's name? Or even the Hispanic linebacker from Texas Tech. I can't think of that kid's name either right now. But, if you can get one of these cats, we need every position there is. I would draft wide receiver, corner, linebacker, defensive tackle. Free agency needs to be offensive line and a running back, in my opinion. I mean, there's some linebackers that I think make a difference, but there's also a linebacker, Quincy Williams, in free agency. That's one of the fastest linebackers in the NFL right now. Great in coverage, great in tackling. He's going to be a high-profile guy. But if the Raiders don't see a linebacker in this draft, that's who I'm going after, right? That's who I'm going after in free agency. I'm picking up the phone. I'm blowing up his agent. I'm getting him in the building. Because Quincy Williams could make a big difference on his defense. When you have a man in the middle that could get sideline to sideline, right? It changes everything. But I don't know what's wrong with my throat. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Protect yourself. Protect your mind. Always take care of your mind. As always, Raiders. Much love. Peace. What the hell is going on?